Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. Over the past 7 years, we've understood what matters most to you, the entrepreneur. And in our 8th year, we're taking head-on two of your most pressing concerns, that of funding and mentoring. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. On the show tonight, we are putting the spotlight on two companies. First up, an exclusive chat with Ninjacart. That's on our Small Giant segment tonight. On the other side of a break, we're in conversation with Blackbuck. Now, Ninjacart is India's largest B2B fresh produce supply chain platform that is changing how people buy fruits and vegetables in India. My colleague, Shreya Sarvadikari, caught up with the management to understand how they're managing to create that niche for themselves and also what the market is looking like going forward. Take a listen.
Thiru, lovely having you on Leaders of Tomorrow. Let me start by asking that you started Ninjacart in 2015 as a B2C hyperlocal grocery chain, but soon after you transitioned to a B2B space. What led to that shift?
So initially when we started Ninjacart, right, the aim was to do the hyperlocal grocery delivery, but soon we realized the margin in this business is way too less to run it sustainably. That's when we realized that how do we work around that. That's when we came up with the idea that let's set up a network of Kirana stores, help them with the supplies and help them with the online sales.
Right.
And we set up a network of 60 stores in Bangalore to whom we were doing the hyperlocal grocery delivery. At the same time, we were asking them what all the supply problems they have so that we could solve them. The first and foremost problem they told is buying of fruits and vegetables is a bigger pain point for them. So then we started helping them with buying fruits and vegetables from the market and delivering it early morning to their stores. And then we realized the supply chain of fruits and vegetables is so broken and so inefficient with so many middlemen, the farmers not getting value for their money, the retailers finding it hard to buy because quality standardization is not there, price discovery is not there. We started working on it and we realized this itself is a huge problem to solve. So we stopped doing the online grocery delivery and continued to focus on the supply chain of vegetables and fruits.
Right. You are hand-holding farmers at the grassroots level through various programs. Talk to us about what they are.
So we do a lot of programs for the farmers. Let's say, for example, the first basic program is like if the basic decision for a farmer is what to grow.
Sure.
Right, because different seasons, different prices, different kinds of crops grows in different seasons in certain geographies. So based on the rich data we have over the last 4 years that we have collected, we advise the farmer on which crop to grow, where he will get the best price and which is suited for that particular village, kind of an advisory we do.
Sure.
Then the next set of things is there are certain villages where we are the only buyers there, so like we are the only access to market there, and for them we sort of ensure that we are able to offtake all their produce. Right? Other things are certain villages are little backward compared to certain villages in terms of the farming techniques they use. For example, a village might not use a mulching paper for growing tomatoes, or they might not use drip irrigation. For them, places where we have high-end farmers, we bring them to these villages and ask them to train these farmers on how to use mulching papers, how to use drip irrigation, or if there is a particular insect attack or a pest attack, what kind of thing we should use to solve. So all of these knowledge sharing session is something we promote. Apart from that also, like we organize every quarter something called as a farmer development program and farmer festival, where we invite all the farmers to share the common problems from the village and motivate them to solve it together. So these are the various things that we enable, and also we enable various seeds, fertilizers company, take them to the farmers to help the farmers get better yield, get better crop protection, etc.
You have recently raised $100 million in funding, and that too from Tiger Global. So how are you going to use these funds to scale your business?
So the primary investments will be made in building a supply chain infrastructure and also building technology to scale this infrastructure.
Sure.
So that will be the primary use of the funds, and also we expanded into 7 cities. We are investing in those cities to build scale.
So you're talking about your expansion. So what are your plans of expanding into tier 2 and 3 towns?
So currently we are working in 7 cities, primarily tier 1 cities, and trying to make sure that the business model is robust. There is a very good profitability in the business, and we are convinced that the business is ready to scale into tier 2, tier 3 cities. And maybe let's say in another 6 months time frame, we should start our expansion into tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Two very pertinent challenges which we hear in the agri-tech sector is there's information asymmetry when it comes to demand and supply, and there is a distribution effectiveness problem. How are you bridging that gap, and how are you meeting that challenge, and what are some of the other challenges that you faced while you were building Ninjacart?
So the inefficiencies which comes in because of supply demand mismatch, etc., can be largely solved through data, right? Because what happens is currently the guy who is producing doesn't know in which market he will be able to sell his produce. But with Ninjacart coming into place, he knows like Ninjacart will be able to offtake the thing. Absolutely. And we also proactively tell our farmers what is going to be a demand pattern over the next 2-3 months, so that he can plan accordingly, right? If you ask me like what all the India specific problems we have solved or how we have innovated, right? In every small things, right, we have to put in checks and balances to actually scale the business. I'll give you a simple example, right? When I say India specific problem, the driver goes on to deliver and he has to collect cash from the customers, right? And the customer gives 1,000 rupees. The driver takes 100 rupees and comes and gives it to us saying that the customer paid 800 rupees. Right. Now, how will you ensure there is no leakage there? There is a lot of filtrage that happens throughout the supply chain. 1, because of theft. 2, because of proper not handling. 3, because of not predicting properly, because of not selling properly, etc. Right? So we have to enable this chain completely with the help of technology to properly plan, procure and sell, as well as to prevent the filtrage.
You are a tech-based startup, and technology is playing a pivotal role in your business. So talk to us at length about how are you leveraging technology?
So like throughout the supply chain of us, right, everywhere tech is involved, starting from telling a farmer what is going to be your purchase pattern for the next a month looks like, so that he can plan that in advance. Then when a farmer brings the produce to our place, then how the inventory works, because our order taking and the inventory runs at the same time. So we work on an algorithm to predict today what is my inventory going to be, and based on that we start selling.
Right.
Okay. And then let's say for example, we on a daily basis in Bangalore we manage more than 6 lakh crates, plastic bins, right? Different crates are in different facilities, but when a truck goes, we have to optimally pick up the crate from all of these places, bring it back to the farmer's place to again start utilizing it. So the crate optimizations, the truck optimization, the last mile from the distribution center to the customers, right? Different customers order different volumes and they are located in different places. So how to do truck optimizations, right? A lot of optimization algorithms are written, and also from the time of picking to the time of delivery, we had to do it in less than 12 hours. then every leg has to be optimized. How do we pick and pack, how many times the labor picks and drops a crate, etc. We have worked on to reducing that, and we have built large supply chain algorithms which support our warehouse operations and stuff. On top of it, let's say we are the only company who does like 100% cash collection from our customers, right?
Sure.
So how do we ensure the cash reaches our bank with zero filterage? Right. So for everywhere we have used technology. Like we would have built like a complete ERP suite, mobile enabled ERP suite, very particular for the fresh business.
You are, like you were saying, you're a strongly tech-enabled startup, and your farmers are also using certain amount of technology in the day-to-day transactions. Who's teaching them? Are you going and teaching the farmers? What's the process?
So in every village we have two representatives of Ninjacart, who we call them the farmer relationship manager. These are the people who help them train on how to use our app. We also help them with various videos on how to do better farming and stuff. Right. So let's say all of this. So we have two people in each of the villages who help us in doing this.
It was great speaking to you. Thank you so much for giving your time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for coming over here.
Time for a break. On the other side, Blackbuck is in focus. What is this company doing? That conversation when we come back on the other side of this break. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight our second conversation is with Blackbuck. I caught up with the management of Blackbuck to really understand what the opportunities are when it comes to the trucking business, how they've managed to create a model which is so diversified, and also what some of the funding and future growth plans are. Listen in. Thanks very much for coming down to our studios here in Mumbai, Subbu, to talk really about Blackbuck and also what's really happening in the logistics space. And so much seems to be happening. But before we come down to, really talk about some of the biggest changes, why we're seeing the changes and how really you view the opportunity, congratulations, you're almost close to unicorn status as we speak. What does that really mean for you?
We came together for a cause, and we really wanted to create a larger impact. And in the last 4 years, we are really proud of what we have achieved. And funding is just one part, but then there are lots of other things that are happening.
Okay.
And but at the same time, we have barely scratched the surface. We still have a long way to go.
Okay, so let's talk about then the market here in India. And reports suggesting that nearly 85 to 90% of the market in India, as we speak, are comprised by small fleet owners.
That's true.
Yeah. So opportunity and challenge. Let's break it up and first talk about the challenge really of working in a market that's so highly fragmented, working in a market where technology is then, the natural answer, but that took some time to come. So let's talk about the overview in terms of the biggest challenges, the way you see it in this market.
As you correctly said, both demand and supply side, it's completely fragmented, right? 60% of India's volumes, it's coming from the SMEs, fragmented, unorganized sector. And closer to, let's say, 75-80% of the supply side is also completely fragmented, where the owners, they are owning less than 5 trucks. Now, the segment that we are in, right, the Indian transportation
and
itself.
And you're in the B2B segment, right?
We are in the B2B segment. The overall transportation itself is a larger component. It forms almost, overall is around 14%, and out of which a good 70% of that 14% would be residing in transportation, and a good 65% of that would be in road transportation, which is closer to $150 billion, right, in terms of size. And within that, the most important aspect is long-haul transportation, which are standard trucks that can be used for multiple purposes. That's the segment that we are in, and that's 100 billion plus. We have around 4 million trucks that are in this segment, and guess what? It would be around 1.5 million owners owning this 4 million. That's the extent of fragmentation.
Sure.
Now reach out to these 1.5 million fleet owners, bringing them on board, educating them to go digital. It's a huge challenge for us to actually get into. And similarly on the supply side, get them used to new way of functioning, which would eventually give them the convenience and the benefit. Again, it takes time. It has been an exhilarating journey for all of us, but still a long way to go.
So let's take a step back and talk about your business model. Three friends, I understand, decided to come together to set up this business.
Right.
What is your model like? Just run us through that.
Yeah, so model is pretty simple. Today, you have the fragmented truck owners. Their ability to discover the right demand with the right price, it's not so easy, so they have to go to intermediaries. And there are lots of complications when they work with intermediaries, so they have to be selective about who they work with. That eventually restricts them in terms of demand discovery, and at the end of the day, what affects them is basically the utilization of the expensive assets that they have, right, which are the trucks. So that's the real challenge for them. They have trucks, they want to earn more out of it, but then the utilization is low, mainly because of this level of fragmentation and many intermediaries, right? Now, the business model for us is to clearly bring these small truck owners directly in touch with the shippers.
Sure.
And in the process, going for disintermediation, that's one aspect. Okay. But very importantly, by aggregating demand at one place, we are able to provide the much needed utilization for the truck owners. So that's going to be the key benefit for our truck owners. At the same time, building that level of trust when it comes to the transaction-related aspects, be it payments or any other convenience-related aspects. First aspect is in terms of improving the utilization, and second aspect is in giving them the comfort in payment and the ease of doing the whole thing. That's exactly the business model.
So you were talking about SMEs earlier, and you
Right.
said that
Right.
you're working closely with SMEs. My question is also in terms of working with SMEs that are not just in the metros, in tier 2, tier 3. What's the size of that opportunity? Opportunities and challenges perhaps which are different, unique when working with these SMEs compared to those in your metros?
Yeah, so see, the behavior of a corporate customer is completely different from a small and medium enterprise, sure. Right? A corporate customer has set processes and there are people to execute it, whereas the SME, he's directly getting involved and his need is almost immediate. And therefore, the extent of technology, coming into play, it's really, really high. And that model is almost the Uber model that you would see. Yeah. The way you and I would normally go and book the cabs, the same thing is what you would actually see for SME, right? So for them, for both the organized players and the SMEs, our value proposition is very clear. How do we really give them the greatest level of convenience, ease of doing the business? How do we really ensure that there is reliability when it comes to transportation? And how do we create the low-cost transportation network for them, right? Sure. So that's the value proposition that we are actually working towards.
Sure.
And changing behavior with SMEs, if we are able to manage that, we are actually looking at a very, very large opportunity here.
You're saying Uber, and I want to pick up on that and talk about, the regulatory framework for tech-first companies like yourself. The criticism, if I can call it that, from companies is that government regulation has not kept pace and it's not moving fast enough. What's really happening in the logistics space?
In the last few years, I would say that there have been really good changes, very welcoming reforms and changes that have happened that had a direct impact on logistics. One is, for example, GST and the drive towards digitization itself. And there are lots of other things that the government is looking at. Now the ministry has a specific program for logistics industry. They've created a team to actually address the needs of the logistics industry. And there are many other aspects. For example, toll. The government is mandating it, and then when that happens, the digitization would actually go to the next orbit altogether. And the government has plans to actually ensure GPS installation in every truck so that you are very clearly having that visibility, and linking that with e-way bill, for example, linking toll with e-way bill will have a complete closure, and all these things would give a huge amount of data for all the ecosystem players with which the right level of solutions, right solutioning would start emerging.
Let's then, as we're closing this interview, talk about one or two things. One is the Indian market very different from what's happening globally? What sort of insights can you give there?
Sure. Whatever we have learned from outside market, we could confidently say that the Indian market is much more complex. Fragmentation seems to be almost the same level, a little bit more or less in outside countries. But the ease of doing business in other countries, it's probably better. The cash flows are streamlined. The level of resources required on ground, it is not much. Therefore, the tech play can be really expedited in those cases.
Sure.
Whereas in India, we are addressing each of these problems, right? And if we are able to solve the problem here, we are well suited to replicate it anywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many drivers do you have right now? How many trucks do you have right now? What's the future plan?
So we have around 400,000 plus trucks on the platform.
Okay.
All right. And we have, with the digitization drive happening, we are holding a large share when it comes to the e-tolling, the trucks with toll tags on our platform. We are actually present in more than 4,000 villages. You talked about SMEs in remote locations, but the most important aspect is the supply residing in remote locations. You are not going to find them in main cities. And we are present, we have penetrated really well into those 4,000 villages to get all these people on board, educate them to do digital transactions and so on. So these are some of the large scaled up numbers that we are seeing. But as we said, it's around 4 million trucks. So we are just around 10% of the market, and we can go much faster.
Okay.
And we are doing some interesting stuff to address the ecosystem problems. Yeah.
All right. Lovely having you here on the show.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks for your
Sunanda.
time.
Thanks for having me here.
All right, those were both our conversations tonight. And just as we're ending the show, I do want to talk about the fact that this year we're very excited to bring you an in-depth fact capsule in association with our knowledge partner, ODAP, the most trusted platform that analyzes startups, their trends and future evaluation. This weekly capsule bringing you the most incisive information and everything you need to know about all the hottest startups. This week, we're bringing you an in-depth look into the Bengaluru market across all sectors. Take a look.
This week, we are bringing you an in-depth look into the Bengaluru market across all sectors. Total annual investment across all sectors in Bengaluru in the year 2016 stood at $760.60 million. The next year saw total annual investment at $957.30 million. And in 2018, it stood at $2,711.90 million. And finally, in 2019, it stood at $2,428.10 million. Let's now look at company launches by year. In 2016, it stood at 207. The next year, it stood at 87, and in 2018 at 49. Our final graphic takes a look at startups by funding stage in the year-to-date period for 2019. 59% were seed funded, 23% were Series A funded, 11% Series B funded, 5% Series C funded, 2% others. That's a wrap of our location snapshot for this week. We will continue to bring you the most in-depth content on the startup space week after week, right here on Leaders of Tomorrow.